As a pitcher, when a guy beats the shift, I'm pissed off.
You're taking away a full position.
Unless we're putting a dude up on the catwalk or in the seats, this shit doesn't matter.
All right, the age-old question today on Chalk Talk is the shift ruining baseball.
Woo.
Johnny, you didn't have shifts when you played, really, right? They weren't. So
No.
There was none of that? Really?
I'm going to voice my opinion on this because it's probably a hot take. I think we should keep the shift around because I think hitters that can't just take a free hit they just need to get better. That's how I feel about it. And I know it's obviously very hard to hit. I personally feel like the best hitters in the game, I've watched it. They'll take the hits, then the shift goes back, and then it opens up more hits for them. I played with Michael Brantley in Cleveland back when we were the Indians, before they were the Guardians, and they would shift 3 people over on the pull side for him, and he would just like hit a ball at 40 miles an hour through the shift, and he would take his hit. And after he got like 4 singles, then the next game they'd be back in regular, and then he'd just roll balls through the 4-hole all day, and there was a lot more hits. I watched Miguel Cabrera do it. I've watched a lot of the best guys do it. So I personally think leave the shift. It makes the hitters get better. And there's just a lot more hits open on the field. Now, I'd be interested in some hitters' takes on that because obviously hitting's hard. Like, is it easy just to roll a ball through the shift or not? Like, how do you feel about that?
So I was, this is 2006 when Joe Madden came to the Rays. Devil Rays at the time, and then Rays.
Back in the Devil Ray days.
Yes.
Devil Rays. That's. I love their OG jerseys.
And I remember the big timeout, and then Arbery Huff playing third would run out to be the 4th outfielder. And then David Ortiz, Giambi, Sheffield, Giambi would hit it in the seats. And I'm like, unless we're putting a dude up on the catwalk or in the seats, this shit doesn't matter by any means. But I think we should keep it. I mean, I don't think, imagine another sport where you have to tell the defenders what to do outside of like soccer and hockey where it's offsides. But I mean, imagine telling a basketball team you can't play zone.
That's what the NBA did, right?
Yeah. You know, so, but I don't like it. I think it's a strategy. It's up to you, and you can lose a game in the shift. Right?
Oh,
it's not.
seen it.
It's not as performance enhancing as you would think. And I totally agree that the hitters need to get better. You know, they flat out need to get better. Imagine like football. You know, it's 1st and goal on the 5, and you have to have 4 in front. You have to have 2 DBs, 3 linebackers, and 2 safeties. Like you have to.
Yeah.
No, I think the shift should stay. I
I
do.
kind of agree with like going back to his first point. It doesn't really matter when Giambi is hitting it to the fucking catwalk. Like for me, like I hit off of 97 and 100 and stuff like that. Hitting it the opposite, so just because the shift is on, just hitting it the other way, that's just as hard than to be sticking with your strength. So for example, Joey Gallo, right? Big pull fucking power, right? He's gonna stick with it. Now, he's the one that complained about the shift, and that's why we're talking about this and all that, which I saw as an article or whatever. But honestly, like, I don't think it matters. When you get to that level, of course, like Michael Brantley and all the guys, like they can just do that, and that's great for them. But I think a lot of guys, it doesn't really matter to them because they're gonna stick with their strength anyway. If your strength is pulling the ball, you're gonna try to hit a fucking 450. You're not trying to hit a fucking ground ball up the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't think that having the shift over to whichever, it doesn't really matter. So for me, like, it doesn't matter. So keep it or keep it. It's a part of the game, like Johnny was saying. Whatever. You're not gonna tell the defenders what to do. Just like I'm not gonna tell you what pitch I'm throwing. Fuck you. You fucking figure it out. You know, like, so if I'm gonna do this to you, you fucking figure it out. If the pitcher's throwing knuckleballs on the mound, are you gonna tell him to not throw it? Like, I do it all the time because I get sliders all fucking day for no reason. These asshole pitchers, now I rip them all the time, throw fastballs. They're still not gonna do it, so I'm the one at the end of the day had to make the adjustment to be able to sit a slider. I'm not gonna hit it anyway, so I'm not gonna fucking do that. But you get my point though, right? So it doesn't really matter. So
Lucas, have you ever been burned in a shift late in game? Like,
Oh, absolutely. And I think part of that goes back to the analytics side to a certain extent, right? You talk about guys like Giambi, right? He knows where his power is, right?
Yep.
He knows that he's trying to put the ball in the seats. But like you said, when the game's on the line, guys will swallow their pride a lot to a certain extent. And if I'm in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, whatever it is, and they need base runners, that's where it gets put on the hitters, right? If you can make an adjustment, beat the shift. And I tell you what, as a pitcher, when a guy beats the shift, I'm pissed off.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
it's
complaining.
way worse than giving up a normal hit.
Absolutely. If a guy barrels one through the gap, you're like, crap, made a bad pitch, or he put a good swing on it, or whatever. But when you overshift a guy and he swallows his pride and takes the free hit, especially late in games, it drives you nuts, because that can be the difference between winning and losing a game.
Absolutely.
And especially these better hitters, like Eric said, it's not like it's easy to do by any means, but some of these hitters nowadays are so good, right? They have the barrel control, they have the hand control. They can say, I'm going to take my free hit. I'm going to give us a base runner. And sometimes that free hit for a lefty turns into a double, right? And now I'm in a one-run game. Now I got a guy on second just because he took the free hit. He ran to second, and it changes the entire framework of the game or the inning.
It puts pressure on the pitcher. Like you gotta worry about signs now. You gotta worry about. I mean, for a starter, I'm now in the stretch because I broke a guy's bat and the ball went 40 feet. And there was no one there. It puts you in a different mindset. Miguel Cabrera used to do this shit to me all the time. He'd sit there, we'd shift him. He'd like take a fastball up and in, which he was never going to hit, so I'd just go there all the time, and he would just foul it off unless we were in a shift, and then he would just like basically bunt the ball, and it would roll like not even off the infield dirt. And he would just look at me and he'd like point as he was running down the line. He'd like, look at that, look at that. And he'd just go
Fuck you.
But behind him, you got freaking Victor Martinez, you got Upton, you got, I mean, all these like this murderer's row. You got Kinsler there. You got this in the middle of the 20 teens. That Detroit lineup was, and we got Miguel Cabrera hitting third, taking his hit in the shift. You're like, well, fuck. Now when this guy hits a homer, it's 2 runs or 3 runs instead of, so. For that reason, I think it just opens up a lot of strategy if the hitters are able to execute. From a fan's perspective, though, because I think MLB is arguing that, or like the people who are against the shift are arguing there's not enough hits. You know, how do we feel about that? I don't think that the shift takes away from the experience, but like, I don't know. What do you?
No, in some ways, data has made people somewhat one-dimensional because it's made them focus super heavy on what they're good at. So in Gallo's case, he's like, I know I can pull the ball really well and I'm going to live and die with my strength. Whereas you're talking about a guy like Miggy where he can do a bunch of different things and he's multidimensional. And so when it comes to that kind of capacity, you're able to actually adapt to the situation, and it's tact, it's strategy. And so that's the whole point, where if you want the game to be just one-dimensional, you'd operate in like, oh, we're going to take away this ability for coaches or players to shift in that kind of capacity. And I don't think that's right. Giving everyone at least the creative ability to get an out, which is the whole point of your side of the game, and then say for Johnny's side, is to get like ducks on the pond and get them to touch home base, right, or home plate. So for me, I think it's whatever strategy can come from it is what we need to have.
Yeah. Regardless of like analytics too, I think in the end you just got to compete, you know, and you got to be better than the pitcher if you're a hitter. And you know what the defensive lineman is, so you just got to make sure you're capitalizing on that. I think every other sport does that. Ovechkin gets double teamed on defense all the time. And do you think he complains and tucks his tail? No, he competes and finds a way to get another player open. Same thing, we watched the Kansas City Chiefs game. We were texting about that, Trevor, when they doubled up Tyreek Hill because he's a fast, speedy guy, and that left the tight end open midfield, and next thing you know, the Chiefs win the game. You know, so every other sport, every other team is adjusting around it. They're just competing, and they're stepping up and swallowing their pride, and really just in the end trying to get the win and overcome any obstacle they have defensively.
Yeah, I don't really get the taking away the hit part, because it also opens up a lot of holes. You know, like, I mean, so I don't think it's taking away anything. I think it's like, if anything, it's creating you
bunting?
You're taking away a full position, for example, like from like, let's say you're third baseman, you move all the way to the outfield. You got a whole fucking spot. Like, so again, you can compete, you know, like, I mean, it is what it is.
Is bunting going to make a comeback for that reason? Just as a shift beater?
Fuck bunting. All the fuck were you talking about bunting, all right?
I saw Robinson Cano bunt a double.
Yeah.
And
I've seen that actually.
All you have to do is a little shove right down the line. He bunted a double.
That's right.
How hard is it for you to like just square around and put a ball on that half of the field hard? Is that hard for?
I think it's hard in the beginning if you haven't, but I think it's one of the very few things in baseball that if you practice, you will be good. Right? If you practice hitting homers, you practice throwing hard, whatever, it's not a guarantee. But if you practice bunting, you can be serviceable, fact.
Yeah, and you don't, like, when you're in a shift and you got, like, let's say you're a lefty, you got someone playing shortstop on the outfield grass.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get it by the pitcher on this half of the field.
Right.
and it's a hit.
It's a free. It's one of the very few gimmies in our game.
Right.
Like,
So if you're a power guy, like if you just take one bunt hit a week, you're going to get a lot more hits because they're going to stop shifting you. Because like, oh, this guy's going to take his hit, right? So your average is going to go up. You'll probably get a lot more hits because of it, so it's going to go up again. And then you're going to be freed up. You're not sacrificing that many at bats, right? Like you're still going to get your power numbers.
You can pick and choose your times, yeah. If you got runners on base, first and second, in a damaged situation, your power guys aren't going to necessarily take it in that situation. But it depends on the pitcher too, right? Hitters know their matchups. Hitters know, pretty early in the at bat if they're feeling good about it, if they're feeling uncomfortable. Those are times when I think guys will start to recognize that and take their medicine, if you will, and lay down that bunt or slap the ball that way and kind of take their hit. If there's times where they feel comfortable and there's runners on base and they want to do damage, if it's a 2-run game and you got guys on first and second, your power guys should try and do what they're best at. But at the same time, like you said, you're not necessarily taking that away from them. There's just going to be opportunities where they can kind of get a free hit. They can produce, like Johnny said, it's not simple, but it's easier than most things in the game of baseball to take that free hit, to compete, to give your team an opportunity and put more guys on base.
Yeah, and how many selfish at-bats happen during the year?
A lot.
A ton. Now. Like the vast majority of the at-bats that happen during the year are a selfish at-bat. Now you see a completely different game in the playoffs, because then it's all about winning, right? Mm-hmm. And you actually start playing the game to maximize the chances of winning that specific game. But there's so many selfish at-bats during the year that, like, it's the 4th inning, there's 2 outs, nobody on, like, you just take your bunt hit, like, okay, I'll drive my average up. You get 1 extra hit a week, 26 hits over the course of the year. That's a lot. Oh, yeah. That's a quarter of what some guys are getting. Like,
I look at it like these dudes, 600 plate appearances, are going to try for that home run. At the end of the season, they're going to have 28 to 30. It's not that many.
Yeah.
It's not that many when you have 600 plate appearances and you hit 30.
Yeah.
Right? Mix in 30 knocks. Now your doubles are going to go up, your triples are going to go up, all that stuff.
Yeah, you end up hitting 275 with 30. That looks a hell of a lot better than 220 with 30, right? Like you're just a more versatile player. You add another skill to your bag, and I can't imagine that you could spend an off season when these guys aren't hitting. We've seen pro hitters that are coming in. It's currently March. We still have guys that aren't swinging yet. They're tracking. They're like whatever, right? If you took 4 months and how many bunts a day do you think it would take to just like be able to get a ball hard on that side of the field?
15 to 20.
15 to 20. I mean, you're talking like 5 minutes off the machine.
Totally.
Like, you don't want to spend 5 minutes to add that bag of tricks to your playbook. Mm-hmm. It baffles me.
It totally baffles me. And it baffles me that people are trying to take it away.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah. It's been going on for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the next thing to take away from the defense?
Right.
We already took away like the matchups. You get 3 batter minimum, which I personally am a fan of. I think pitchers should be able to get guys out and forces the pitchers to get better, right? But like, what else are we going to take away, and how much do we have to change the game to make it more interesting rather than marketing it better?
I think changing that is fine, but again, I don't think it should take away the competing aspect of it, right? Because at the end of the day, you're fucking competing. Like you and the pitcher and the whole fucking 8 outfielder or whatever 8 fielders out there. Yeah. You're competing. So if they're giving you something to you, you just take that. Now, if you don't want to take it, that's fine. You can try to still park the ball, and if that's your power, do it. If you hit 45, 50 homers a year, then you don't want to do it, that's fine. You try to hit your homer there, that's okay. Do whatever it takes to be a fucking champion. But at the end of the day, you're competing. Don't be like, oh, don't do this because I don't like it. Go fuck yourself. You know what I'm saying?
You're publicly not the biggest fan of bunting. Neither am I.
No.
Usually I'm not the biggest supporter, and admittedly it's not something I kind of endorse. But when it comes down to it, the thing I like least is not competing and not using strategy to win a game.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you're there to do. That's what you're being paid to do, is to win a game and also to entertain. And so when you take away strategy, when you take away this creative ability to get guys out and to do kind of other pieces of the game, I'm not a big fan of that. So
I think we're all in agreement. Don't ban the shift. Just get better. Just get better.
Exactly.
That's it. Take 5 minutes a day. It's not that hard.